Vera later graduated with Master of Clinical Psychology at Help University in 2020 last year, after completing her psychotherapy clinical training and completing this training. She was also involved in spearheading support groups for fellow mental health practitioners, as well as SOLS 24/7 staff during this early stage of COVID-19 pandemic. She also spearheaded the community outreach leadership project for at-risk youth residing at PPR community, which is low income community. She has experience in working with clients of various population, which includes children, university student, domestic violence survivor, abuse survivors, and also refugees from Afghanistan, Yemen, and India. She has experience in providing psychotherapy on anxiety disorder, depression, grief, cognitive disorders, and post-trauma stress disorder, PTSD. As clinical coordinator, she also worked closely with clinical psychologists and counselors collaboratively in organizing training and talks like this. So she is passionate about advocating mental health to general public and has provided numerous talk and training on various topics regarding mental health. So because she believes that everyone has their own story or struggles and deserve to hear from their pain. Now let us welcome Sister Vera to speak to us about mental health. Sister Vera, please.
Thank you so much, Pastor Paul, and thank you so much for having me to share this mental health talk with all of you. I'm really excited to see all of you here, and I'm really glad to have this opportunity to share with you, specifically on mental health stigma. But before I do that, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, great. So you guys can see my slide?
Yeah.
Right, so we're going to talk about mental health stigma, and then what can you do in terms of this mental health stigma? How can you do something to reduce this in our community? All right, so without further ado, I would go into what we talk about today. So just to let you know, 4 parts to this talk today. The first thing is introducing what is mental health. What do we understand about mental health? Second thing is what are the common mental health stigma in our society? And then the third one is the effects of stigma on those of us who are struggling with mental health. And then the fourth thing is the key thing, which is your role in fighting for mental health stigma, which is hopefully something that you can take away even after this talk and start to, play your role in breaking this mental health stigma, right, which is quite harmful. Okay. So introduction, what is mental health? So before you hear a lot from me, I would like to hear from you first. So if you have, if you're on your phone, you can scan this QR code, or I will be sending you this link right now that you can actually just click in your chat box, and then you'll be put to this website called menti.com. So I'm just going to put that in the chat box right now. All right. So if you click in, or you can go to menti.com and enter the code here as well, 12681588. It will bring you to something like that. So you should see this. Right, so what I want you to do if you enter this website here is to tell me one thing, one word that comes to mind when you think of mental health. So I give you like 3 boxes, so you can actually just fill up if you have more than one word, what comes to mind when you think about the word mental health. So you don't have to fill out your names here. So yeah, you wouldn't be identified or anything. There's no right, there's no wrong. It's really for us to also understand from each other first what we know about mental health. So what's the one thing or one word that comes to mind when you think of mental health? Let me go back to the slides and show you again. Right, you should see. So go either to menti.com, enter this code, or you can go to the chat box, click on the link, and it will bring you to this website. Right. If you have answered, I will be able to see your answer. Okay, great. So the word that is the biggest is the word that is most being mentioned, the word that is most being submitted by all of you, right? So I'm seeing, yeah, what comes to mind is stress, depression, confusion, yeah. Okay, another thing is scary sometimes, yeah. Right, existential crisis, wow, right, okay. So the purpose to live, or what's the reason of living, right? Purpose of life, okay. Feeling demotivated, okay. Unstable, personal, right? It is very personal. Oh, sensing thing, yes. Feeling, yeah. We often think like mental health equals to being crazy, which I see here. Okay. OCD, interesting, yeah. And then demotivated, existential crisis, loneliness, emotional struggles. Yeah. So I think you guys do have the gist of it, and mental health has all of this, but it also is more than that, and we're going to look at it right now today. So thanks for sharing your answers with me. Let's go into what is mental health. So 3 things that comes to mind when we think about mental health. First thing is well-being, your being, how well are you overall? So this is regarding your thoughts, how do you think, emotions, how do you feel, behavior, what do you do, and then social, how do you interact with your friends, your colleagues, your students, people that you encounter, how do you build that connection with them? So first, that's the well-being. Second is the response. So our mental health also depends on how it changes how we respond to things. So given a situation, how do we think? How do we feel? How do we act, right? So mental health is also in that way. That's how we kind of see someone's mental health. And the third one is underlying struggle. So mental health also includes things like how we handle stress, how we relate to others, also going back to social well-being, how we relate to people around us, and then how we make choices in life. So actually, mental health is something that every one of us have, just like physical health, just like medical health, we also have mental health. So every one of us here, all of you, we have mental health, but the question is, at what state is our mental health at? Is it at a healthier one, or is it at an unhealthier one? So mental health is also affected by a few factors. We call this the contributing factors, things that we have as an individual that changes our state of our mental health status, right? So first thing is personality. This is very individual. Once we are all born with different temperaments, meaning like, some people are a bit more calm, some people have calm temperament, some people are a bit more reactive, so that's more a reactive kind of temperament, and that really is unique to all of us. We all have different personalities, right? And the next one is critical life stages. So stages of childhood, of adolescence, right? Adolescence, we're talking about around 12 to all the way to 19, right? Adolescence age, and then adulthood. So at all of these stages is where we kind of see this person is learning about the world, like for a child to understand the parents, the family, the friends that he or she meets in school, right? Adolescence is where we see someone going through a lot of like hormonal changes. Maybe there's a lot more sensitivity in terms of how they look, their body image. right? And adulthood is going into taking care of the family. It's looking for a job. It's also understanding expectation from the society. So all of these are critical life stages that also kind of plays a role in our mental health status. The third one is genetic. So this can be like, for example, if you have family members with depression, it actually increases your chances of having depression. But also, it's not just genetical. It's not just that purely genetical, right? We see there's also family history. How is it like growing up in your family? Has there been any domestic violence? Say there were emotional abuse. Perhaps they were very painful verbal threats to each other in the marriage, or physical abuse, and then there's also the sexual abuse, right? All of these abuses can happen in terms of the domestic violence. We also see that divorce can be very stressful, not just for the parents, but also for the child. No matter how old you are, divorce can be very painful and frustrating as a child. So we see that also plays a role, right? And we also see that like things like drugs, alcohol, gambling, right? I'm listing a lot more of the negative side of things, but this is, just to give you a picture of how having all of this involvement can also change a person's mental health status. And then the last one is actually life experiences, how we have experienced, say, friendship with the people who kind of abandon us, right? Halfway through a really close friendship. These are life experiences that kind of shape our mental health. Trauma, I also talked a bit about it just now. So domestic violence is a type of trauma, right? With all of the abuse that I mentioned before, and also death of the loved one. So if you were close to, say, your grandparents or your parents, or even an aunt, or even a distant relative, if you're close to this person and this person has passed away, that would be part of the life experience that would actually shape your mental health as well. So mental health, I mentioned earlier, is that everyone has it. It's just that whether it's healthy or whether it's not healthy. So what does a healthy mental health look like? First is you will know your strengths and also your weaknesses, also what we call in therapy points of improvement, things that you can improve on. The second is effective coping with your life stresses. So often at times, why do I say effective is we find the easy way out of the stress. Perhaps, things that we see, drinking, drugs, these are like ways to kind of get us away from the stresses, and these are not effective. It helps you numb your feelings for a while, but after that, you're going to come back when you're sober again. The life stressors do that. So having a healthy mental health doesn't mean that you have no stress, rather it means that you can cope with your stress effectively and in a very helpful manner. The third point is personal awareness. So being aware about how you feel. Why do I feel this way? Why do I think this way? Why did I behave and said that to my friend or my family just now? Right? These are all reflections, right? And also determines a healthy mental health. Okay. The next is also that it will help us improve our relationship. So instead of breaking ourselves away from friends, from family, we're actually approaching them, we're trying to build that connection. So that is a healthy mental health. It also allows us to have better concentration at work or at study. So it also helps with productivity, right? Being able to perhaps remember more things and efficiently follow through the work schedules, right? So these are part of what healthy mental health looks like. What about an unhealthy mental health? There's a lot of things, but I'm not going to cover it today. I'm going to cover it more in the second talk. But basically, person who has an unhealthy mental health looks like that. Having sleeping problems, right? Insomnia is what we call when someone has insufficient sleep, not being able to fall asleep, finding it difficult to fall asleep. Or hypersomnia, so someone sleeps a lot, but then they wake up and they still don't feel refreshed. So these are common things that we see, sleep problems. Appetite problems, where we see someone who used to enjoy eating, stops eating or don't like eating anymore, or is eating a lot. So it's that extreme changes, right? And the third one is poor concentration. So finding it hard to concentrate at work, finding it hard to listen when someone's talking, being really involved in the mind, in the worries, and distracted. The fourth one is negative thought patterns. This is what we call things like, I should have done that. I should not have done that. If only I said this, then things would be better. So it's really negative thought pattern is very much focused on criticizing the self. So that's what we call unhealthy in terms of mental health. Rumination is what I call reflection gone wrong. Instead of reflecting and learning from the past, rumination is like going back to the past, thinking about what happened, and then just criticizing yourself for not doing the right thing, right? And it's gonna like put you down to like that spiral where you're gonna think even more worse thing about yourself. Maybe I'm not worth it. I this life is meaningless. It's hopeless, and it's just going like more further down the dark road. We also see on edge is something like somebody cannot like stay calm, really feeling like very agitated, like something happened and they overreact. This is also something like it's often because they have a lot in their heart, a lot of emotions. That's why it's keeping them on edge. And then we also see that it makes sense why someone who is on edge also have mood swings, right? Feeling very happy at one point, or feeling very agitated at one point, feeling very horrible about the himself or herself at one point, feeling great about himself or herself at one point, right? So that mood swing just go with that. And the last one, which is pretty scary, which is the social withdrawal, where we see that we close ourselves to our rooms, start locking people out, we stop answering texts, we stop answering calls, and that's where we know these are like red alarms that you're not doing well in terms of mental health. But why do we even want to talk about mental health? Why is it so important? And I'm going to go through these 5 things that I found on a research done last year. So the first thing is that in terms of health problems, the first one is the heart problems, the cardiological issues, heart issues, right? And the second biggest health problem in Malaysia is actually mental health issues. So they say that if you take 10 Malaysians from 16 years old and above and put them in a room, in that 10 Malaysians, there's actually 3 of them that very likely is struggling with mental health issues. So that's actually quite a high number. And we see that there is insufficient mental health practitioner, MHP mental health practitioner. This includes psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, all of these people who are helping in that helping profession, in this mental health practitioner. We don't have enough of these people in Malaysia. Based on WHO, World Health Organization, the ideal number is one mental health practitioner to 10,000. But in Malaysia, we're seeing that it's 1 to 100,000. So it's 10 times what we're supposed to be seeing. And that's really heavy, right, for one person. And we even more so see the importance of the community to play a part, right? Your role, all of you here, you play a big role in understanding mental health, having more awareness, and then recognizing mental health issues so that you can play such a big role in reducing that load from the mental health practitioners so that they can focus in more of those who really needs it, right? So your role here, and I'm really glad that all of you here, you make the time to join and understand more about mental health, because then you do play a big role in the community, especially in Malaysia. The fourth one is that we see an increased mental health issues nationwide, throughout Malaysia, right? 500,000 Malaysians is estimated to be depressed, right? And this is, it says depressed instead of depression, is because they are showing symptoms of depression, right? They're not given a diagnosis. It's not like all of them has seen a psychiatrist and been diagnosed, but rather this is, I believe it's more of a questionnaire that was thrown out and then just showing the depression and its symptoms, and 500,000 of Malaysians actually are estimated to be depressed based on the scale. And the last one is something that we all relate to, right? Especially with what has been going on in Sarawak with the COVID situation, the increase in the cases. To share with you, in my center, we see that right from March onwards, all the way up to July, there was a high spike in the number of clients that we've been getting in our center. And there was a lot of adjusting, both sides, from the client side, from our side. We were all going through a lot of changes, right? Therapists also going through their own adjustment in life. Clients, we see that people who are already stable kind of just spiked again, their issues of depression, anxiety, and all of that is suddenly, instead of being stable, it goes up again. And we see that this is a difficult time for a lot of us. We're going through a lot of emotional distress. We're having a lot of changes in our study or work environment, something that we're really comfortable with. Suddenly there's so much changes, there's so much uncertainty, right? And there's also the loss of income and job for a lot of us and our loved ones. And this is hard, right? Especially when income is part of a big part of security for many people, right? Loss of job income can be very, very stressful. Right, and the last one is the fear of safety, where we're worried if we're going to be infected by COVID, even with the vaccination, right? Whether we're gonna, whether taking that vaccine is going to be safe for us, right? And I really, at this point, also want to share that those who have, perhaps among us, there are people who've already taken vaccination, whether it's the first dose, the second dose, to share that awareness, right, of how it has been for you. And I believe that, it will not be as bad as what we've been seeing on the news, based on that 1 to 2% of that side effects of that vaccination. So so this is why it is so important for us to have this talk. And I'm also sharing with you through the recent news in Miri, and you probably also heard of it yourself, right? Last year, we know that women jumped off a shopping mall in Miri, and then towards earlier mid of last year, May, a woman from India attempted suicide. And these are all very near us. This is, kind of showing you that mental health struggle is something that is really real in Miri itself, right? I also found a news in 2019, it says that Miri records the highest number of suicide cases since 2016. So, I guess that kind of just show you that red alarm, and why even more so mental health awareness is so important for all of us Mirians. So now I'm going to talk about the mental health stigma, which is the key of today's topic. What is mental health, right? You may be asking, what is this mental health stigma? So mental health stigma is when someone is seen in a negative way, where someone is judged based on his or her mental health illnesses, purely just basing on his or her mental health illnesses, or seen in a negative way for wanting to seek help for emotional distress, such as anxiety, depression, or trauma, right? So mental health stigma is when we see a person as who or she is based on their mental health illnesses purely, rather than, seeing this person as an individual, himself, herself, with their own personality, with their own strength, their points of improvement. We're seeing it purely just based on their diagnosis, right, given by whether it's a psychologist or psychiatrist. And that is mental health stigma. And it's something that's really subtle. We can always, and I will show you a bit of example later on, that mental health stigma can happen in a very subtle manner, but yet it is also very, very harmful. We're going to go through a few common ones with you. First off is these two things. One is that we often say someone with mental health is unstable, is lazy, is untrustworthy, cannot be trusted, it's intelligent, it's not smart, it's incapable, not be able to have no ability to do anything that you give this person to do, right? And because, what is it a stigma? Is because we're seeing that instead of having the struggle, when you say that someone is when someone with mental health illness is being unstable, lazy, untrustworthy, not smart, not capable, you're saying that they're not trying their best. They can, right? They're not putting in the effort. They're just being lazy. And these are things that are not really helpful, right? For someone who's going through mental illness, they try, I've spoken to so many clients, and they really say that, I try my best. I really want to try my best to work things out, but it's just hard. And it is a learning process. It will take time. They can't just, going to the second point, get over it. They can't just snap out of it and just click off that switch and everything would be fine. They would be able to focus a lot more. It will take time. And it, of course, I would say really need therapy aid or even psychiatric intervention, like taking medication if needed, right? To be able to like stabilize and help them to cope. So it's not like a switch that they can just turn off, right? And saying this thing is not very sensitive to what they're going through, right? So these are the first two common ones. So the third one is mental health illnesses equals to crazy, evil, crazy, insane, weak, dangerous. We kind of saw some of those words just now, right, during the poll that we did with everyone. So I'm going to talk about the first four first: evil, crazy, insane, weak. We see that quite a lot, right? I think even in like movies, even like in children's cartoon movies, in like Disney Channel, we see like the villain is always like the person that's like crazy, like evil, insane, and like we question like, is it really that mental health illnesses means that this person is crazy or insane or weak, right? Because they really breaking it down, right? Especially from what I see in therapy, breaking down all their struggles and suffering to the very, very, very bottom of it is actually that they have lacked the very basic need, right? There are needs of wanting to be loved that was not met. There was need to wanting to be appreciated that was not met. There was needs to want to contribute to other people, to be meaningful and useful in the society that was not met. So all of this, right, if you break down to the very core of it, it's actually very basic needs that people like you and me, we have it as well as everyone has these things, but it's just for them. It has been really, really difficult. That's why it manifests into mental health illnesses. Dangerous, right? There is a certain truth to it, but it does not immediately equates to it, right? So someone who has mental health illnesses, people who say are unstable, have a lot more mood swings, they may be dangerous, they may pose danger to other people, but we see in research a lot more time they are more dangerous to themselves. They are more inclined to harm themselves than other people, right? So and I think this is even something that I only got to really, really understand after I got into clinical psychology field, right? Before that, I also felt like, they must be really dangerous, they must be really scary, but really they're just people like you and me. The fourth point is mental health struggles equals to lack of faith in God. So it's quite crazy, isn't it? Quite scary, huh? We see that, when we have friends or we have family that have like, if I were to say critical health conditions, like for example, stage 4 cancer, right? We would not say to that person, I think it's because you have lack of faith in God, because it doesn't make sense, right? How is it that the physical health relates to the faith in God? Similarly, it really also applies to mental health struggles, and that mental health is just like physical health. It has nothing to do with the lack of faith in God. Really, we look at the book of Job, Psalms, Lamentation, the Bible, we see that people Job and David himself, they go through a lot of things as well, right? They go through a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, right? I would say mental health struggles, right? Struggling to love, right? Struggling to deal with the guilt and the pain, wishing that God can curse their enemies, wishing that all those enemies would not have any mercy from God, right? These are things that we see in the Bible as well. Do you then say that they lack of faith then, right? What would be more helpful? What we see is helpful in the Bible is that they bring their laments, their pain, their sufferings back to God, right? And that is really a lot more helpful for us to say to someone who has come up to you and telling you that they are struggling with mental health, to encourage and to bring them back to the Word of God, to encourage and to give them that support instead of saying that, I think you're having a lack of faith, right? The fifth one is delusions and hallucination. So I know it's a big word. I'm going to explain it a bit. Delusion is when someone has a very strong belief about a belief that's actually wrong, with very clear evidence that it's not happening. So very common delusion is like, I'm very sure that every night when I sleep, there's someone that's looking at me, spying at me when I'm sleeping. I'm pretty sure every night there's someone that's following me. I'm pretty sure that my husband or my wife is actually cheating on me. These are more common things that we see in delusions, and these are what we call delusions, right? And oftentimes it also includes things like, believing that they are a special messenger by God, a special angel, right? And these are parts of what delusion looks like, and it's clinical. We have research, we have evidence that these are clinical things. Second thing is hallucination, and very commonly hallucination is seeing, hearing, or smelling things that people cannot smell, cannot hear, cannot see, right? And you can imagine how people very commonly just put all of this into one box and say that it very must be demon possession. But after reading a lot of journals, I've read a lot of studies on this. The conclusion is that there is no conclusion, because mental health, is clinical. Demon possession is supernatural. You can't really find evidence for it and do it in the lab, right? And get evidence. But what would be a helpful takeaway from this is that when someone's going through delusions, right, having this really kind of interesting and false beliefs, or seeing things, hearing things that you're not hearing, right, it can be really worrying. But what you want to keep in mind is that it's not, don't jump to conclusion that it's demon possession, but also keep your mind open that it can be that this person is struggling with clinically evidence shown mental health struggles, right? So keep your mind open to these two options instead of just saying that it's demon possession. Number 6 is that people who go for therapy is weak or crazy people. So I think I hear this quite a lot, and really is also one of the mental health stigma, which is, stopping people from going for therapy. But really, I can share with you people that I see in therapy, they've gone through so much, but I think they're one of the most resilient people. They're one of the most courageous people. They're aware of their weaknesses. They want to do something about it, and they want to improve their well-being. So I think it takes so much courage to do that. And I really say that, people who seek therapy are instead not weak, not crazy, but they are courageous. They are really resilient. So what are the effects of stigma, right? All of those things that I talked about just now. How does it influence a person who is struggling with mental health? So the first thing is feeling shameful. Feeling really shameful about what they're going through. Like, why is it that I'm the only one that's going through it? That people, are being fun of. Feeling hopeless, like there's no way out of this. I'm gonna forever be like that. We also see that stigma drives a person to isolate themselves, right? And this often comes from the thought that nobody would understand how I feel, right? Nobody would get what I mean. Maybe I really am just thinking too much. Maybe I'm just overthinking it, just being too dramatic, and they isolate themselves. We also see that people who are affected by the stigmas, they are reluctant to seek help, seek treatment, because it's such a shameful thing in the society. And we also see that they feel like there is a lack of support from their family, from their friends, and these are people that means a lot to them, right? These are people who may be saying things that are very hurtful, but they also take it to heart because these are people who means a lot to them. So that lack of support is really hurtful, can affect that person a lot. We also see that it affects the person's opportunity for employment. I think employers here may face this, right? A person with mental health struggles. How do you give this person a job and make sure that they do their job well, right? And that really comes with a lot of wisdom and guidance and prayers to make a wise decision on how you can be helping this person and putting this person in a position that is not overwhelming, but it's also suitable and would encourage the person to highlight their strength at the workplace. We also see that effects of mental health stigma brought out a lot of bullying, a lot of physical violence, and also harassment. It's like, harassment would be like verbal harassment, right? Saying things like, you're just overthinking it. Don't be too dramatic. Why are you so dramatic? It's just some small thing that happened, right? These are like words that may come from a good heart, but it's not helpful. The last one is the doubt. So they may have self-doubt on their ability to do things because of perhaps at the very end, if everyone really, all of these people that I love says that I really am overthinking it, then maybe, I just can't do things well. It's just me. That's who I am. And that is, a very unhelpful thinking patterns. So all of this, what it really, really does at the very, very end of it is that it delays them from seeking the necessary treatment that they need. And at the end of the day, their symptoms of mental health just worsens. So what can you do, right? Knowing all of this, what is mental health, how a healthy mental health look like, how someone who's struggling with mental health kind of look like, and understanding what stigma can do to a person struggling with mental health, what can you do, right? Okay. So your role as the community is so important. First off is to learn about mental health. So reading about it, reading books, reading journal articles, right? I think journal articles are like the most easy to read because it's like a few pages and you have all the summaries in one really short reading. And I always enjoy doing that a lot more than reading books. And yeah, if you find it helpful, if you are curious, I encourage you to read from good books, from journal articles instead of social media, because social media has a lot of wrong claims about what psychology says. That psychology says that, right? You see that quite a lot, and very often time it's not true. I don't know who really said that, but psychology didn't really say that. So yeah, read about mental health, but read it from a reliable resource. Second thing is listen to their story. So if you have people who are, you have friends, family who are struggling with mental health, you know that it's been a tough time for them, really just asking them, how have you been? How, I see that you've been really, really down lately. Are you okay? Right? Listen to their stories. Just be there and give that support, that listening ear to them. And respect them, not be judgmental, not to jump to conclusions and say that you're just overthinking it. Maybe you're just being too dramatic. Really, there's no that such a big issue. Why are you overthinking it so much? Everyone's going through what you're going through. Just try to be respectful. Try to be that listening ear, and try not to judge, even though we're all coming from a good heart. And the fourth one is that, also this is something that's really interesting. It's making sure that you mention a person before their whatever illnesses, right? Oftentimes we can say that, we always say, oh, that depressed ABC, but rather than saying that, you're saying that you want to say ABC with depression. So you don't want to put depression and ABC as the same thing, because ABC is himself, herself, someone who's unique, who has their own personality, their own strength, their own weaknesses, all of this beautiful thing that makes this person who they are, and it should not be just the illnesses, right? So saying person with depression, for example, is always more helpful than saying ABC, depressed ABC, right? Depressed person. Right, I hope that is not too confusing, but there's small things like that can actually, bring up some mental health stigma and make the first person feel a bit uncomfortable about sharing and talking about it. And the fifth one is advocate for mental health lovingly, and this is like voicing out, speaking out, especially when you are conversing with your friends maybe, or with your family, and you hear that they are talking about mental health as equate to crazy, as equate to weak, insane, dangerous people. You want to speak up in a loving manner. You want to share with them that you're not right. It's a lot more than that. There are these are people who are struggling with mental health. What you're saying is not helpful, right? But in a loving way, right? It's very easy that when we have disagreements, that we just get really angry. I guess it's a very natural reaction, but yeah, pray for wisdom to advocate when someone misunderstands mental health, for you to talk about mental health with that person in a loving manner. The last one is talking about it. So if you're struggling with mental health, if you're, say, going through a downtime, it's been really tough for you, talk about it with people that you trust. It could be in church, it could be in your friends or in your family members. Talk about it and share your own experience, right? Because once you talk more about it, then you're actually normalizing it. So it becomes a normal thing to talk about feeling down, right? I think oftentimes when people ask us, how have you been? We say, yeah, okay, fine. But, maybe there's more to it. And if you're comfortable sharing, always encourage you to share. And I guess this is where the importance of fellowship comes in as well, where you have that space to share about what you've been going through and pray for each other. So I found this really helpful, list of things not to say and what you can say to someone who's struggling with mental health struggle. So I'm just going to briefly go through it, not going to read all of it. So things that is not helpful to say is saying that it could have been worse, just deal with it. Step out of it. Everyone feels that way, Maybe try thinking happier thoughts, right? It's like turn off the switch, right? Don't worry about that. And that's not helpful. But what would be more helpful is saying, thanks for sharing with me, thanks for opening up with me. Is there anything that I can do to help you? I'm sorry to hear that it must have been tough for you. Saying that I'm here for you when you need me, right? Or saying that people do get better. And saying, how are you feeling? How are you feeling today? So these are helpful things to say instead of, and you do realize that things that you want that is helpful to say is often an open-ended question. So it encourages the person to share more as compared to don't say it, kind of like close-ended, and it's also like, a statement rather than a question. So yeah, you want to encourage the person to share with you. What if you are struggling with mental health struggle and you are facing this mental health stigma? What can you do? Well, first thing is not to take it personally and know that they don't mean it. These people who may have hurt you, I believe they just don't understand mental health enough, and for you to know that it's what they say about you is not true. The second thing is to know for yourself very clearly that you are not your mental health illness, you are not your diagnosis, you are not depression, you are not anxiety, you are not bipolar or whatever diagnosis is given to you, but you are yourself. So knowing that you also have your individual self, you have your own responsibility as a person, you have your own strength, you have your own support. You are a lot more things, right? You are a beloved child of God, more than that, right? Instead of just saying that I am depression, and I'm not going to do this because I have depression, right? In doing that, you're kind of increasing that stigma as well. So break that stigma. I know this is kind of a sensitive topic, but not to see yourself as your diagnosis. You are really more than that. The third one is connecting with trusted people. So talking to friends or family members, anyone who you feel that you're comfortable talking with, share with them what you've been experiencing, right? Because then this is where they can also help you, give you that support that you need. Telling them, what kind of support you need from them is also very helpful. Is it okay, like example, is it okay if you see that I am making decisions too quickly and you feel like I'm not being myself, doing too impulsive things? Could you just please advise me or pull me away from the group a bit and talk to me just to calm me down? Right, these are things that we want to ask for. Support. What kind of support we want from our friends or family? So yes, connect with other people and not to isolate yourself, because it will not be helpful. It is not helpful. The last one is, if you have tried everything you can, if you have done everything that you've read up on that is helpful, and you're still not getting help, you feel like you're still not improving, what would be the best way is to go for mental health treatment, and that could include going for psychiatry, see a psychiatrist, or seeing a counselor, a psychologist, right? And this picture is actually support group, and maybe we don't have it that much in Miri, we have it more in Kale, but if enough people talk about or ask about whether there is group support for, say, people who are going through depression, or group support for people who are going through anxiety, right? I think the country's Ministry of Health could probably see that and see that need in Miri or in Sarawak, and that could be something that's possible. But for now, right, it's still a lot more individualized, right? So going to see the psychologist, see the psychiatrist, right? Get the help and the treatment that you need. Okay, so that is the end of today's talk. I hope it's not too overwhelming for you, and if you have any question, you can ask me later on. But I would end this talk today with a really good quote by C.S. Lewis. He says that when pain is to be borne, a little courage helps more than much knowledge, a little human sympathy more than much courage, and the least tincture, which is like a small drip of the love of God, it's more than all of it. So we need courage. We need courage to get out of our pain. We need sympathy, more so than courage. Sympathy from other people, care and compassion from people around us to get out of the pain. And most importantly, as the love of God that would comfort and help us through this. Right. So a teaser to the second part, if you want to know more about mental health struggles, you want to know more about how it looks like in terms of like symptoms, so you can look out for yourself and your friends and family, and you want to know what you can be doing to help them, what you can be doing to help yourself, and you want to know helpful resources in Miri. So I've spoken to the head of psychiatry in GH, and I got really like good information that I can share with you in the second part. So if you're curious to know more about that, do come for the second part of the talk. That would be on the 2nd of May. All right, yeah. So before I end, this is also a list of mental health hotlines available in Malaysia. So just briefly want to let you know that if you are looking for 24 hours available hotlines, say it's 3 or 4 in the morning, and you really want to talk to someone, Befrienders is there. It has a suicide helpline, so just call this, and they have people who are trained to answer that call to just keep you company at that point of time. And then we have Talian Kasih. So Talian Kasih is a hotline set up by the government, and it has people who can speak Chinese, people who can speak English, Malay, Tamil, and all of the language. So, this is also something that if you're open to it, you can call 15999. And then if you're going through, say, domestic violence, you're going through sexual abuse, you're going through emotional abuse or physical abuse from a male perpetrator, this is the number that you can call for help. So I work with them as well, WAO, and I do see clients from them, and they are really, really helpful. They have people who are trained to guide and manage the case for you. So hotline number is this one. You can take the time to like screen capture if you want to, or take a picture. Just keep this somewhere helpful if any time you need it, at least it's there. They also have a WhatsApp line. They call it Tina. You can also contact this WhatsApp if you don't feel like calling them. So these are the 3 major 24 hours hotline numbers that you can keep. And the rest are actually services. So Soul's Health is where I work at. I work at Soul's Health, and we provide talks, mental health assessment. We provide online therapy. So I am actually now seeing a lot of online clients from my home. Most of them are from West Malaysia, and we get referrals from WAO as well. So people who's gone through pretty traumatic experiences, they are referred to us as well. So if you're looking for like online therapy kind of thing, this can be something that you can look into, as well as MMHA here. Lifeline Association, this is, I believe it's started up by a group of Chinese, so I think they mainly only speak Mandarin. So if you know someone who is more comfortable speaking Mandarin, this can be a number that you want to call. The Mind, MMHA, Souls Hub, Relate Malaysia, all of us, we provide mini therapy, so not so much on the hotline. But yeah, if you're looking for therapy and you're looking for online therapy, they have those resources for you. So you don't need to fly all the way to KL. You can be sitting in the most comfortable room in the house, and you can be talking to a psychologist or a counselor. So that option is open for you. Okay, so I guess with that, I end my talk, and I'm gonna pass the time now to Pastor Paul, who will be managing the Q&A session for me.
Okay, thank you, Vera, for your sharing. It is very enlightened and helpful. Yeah, even though after hearing the informations, I felt relief because I myself have some problem, maybe that overthinking and that negative, unhealthy measurements. Yeah, so that's helpful for me. So now we will ask some questions from you. You can ask through, just open your mic and unmute yourself. Just ask Vera if you're willing to, or you can post your question into the chat room in Zoom or through the Slido that I introduced just now. If you don't know where to Slido, you can slide up this Zoom chat room. There's a link. You can click in and then type your question there. You can choose to use anonymous method to ask the question. So welcome. Now you can just unmute yourself and ask any kind of question to Vera. And please don't stress out. Okay, now is your time. You can ask question or interact with Sister Vera. A word of encouragement. So, yeah.
So if I was going a bit too fast just now, if you want to clarify something for you, just let me know. Yeah, I will do that.
Yeah, so far I haven't seen any questions. Then I will ask some questions first from myself. Can you suggest us a few websites or books? You already suggest us the website about the mental health, so that we can study more about what is mental health. As you said, this is what we can do to help in our community, a reliable resources. Do you have any?
If you're not really comfortable like speaking up in this group and you want to remain anonymous, you can click into the Slido link. It's in the chat box. Scroll the way up, right, Pastor Paul?
Yes.
Yeah, scroll the way up and then you see there's a Slido link. Just click in. Whatever question you asked there, we cannot identify who you are. So, that's helpful. You can do that.
Mm. Any question?
Hello, Vera. It's not a question, but it's a request. Is it possible? Is it possible for us to have a copy of the lectures that you just given? Because you went pretty fast. Actually, it's quite fast, faster than me. Anyway,
All right. Yeah. I guess I should be able to share that with you. Is there anything that you feel like I can clarify a bit more for you guys? Just let me know. I'm looking at the chat box. Okay, so Wendy said, ask where to get those books related to mental health. I don't have it now at the top of my mind, but if you can be a bit more specific on what kind of books, I can look up and share some with you. Okay, and then we have questions from Celine saying that Just wondering if you have seen or heard of Framing of Britney Spears documentary, what are your thoughts on it, and how far we've come talking about mental health with celebrities or public figures. I've kind of seen some documentaries about Britney Spears and what she's gone through, the abuse that she's gone through by her father, which was controlling, if I'm not mistaken, that affected her career, right? How far we've come to talking about mental health with celebrities. I think this goes all the way back to how much are we talking about mental health stigma? Are we addressing those stigma? And being famous, that also puts us on like a public pedestal that everyone can see us, can see how we are doing what we are doing, and there are people who can be judgmental. We know that there are people who are out there to just harm us and like internet trolls, right? We call them. So really, I think we have a lot more to go with these mental health stigma. I believe that we say that Malaysia is really behind when it comes to mental health stigma, I think, but actually it's across the world. There may be people who we see like online, we say that on social media, we see that people are more open to talk about mental health in the West. But really, I see that overall, everyone, when it comes to very personal conversation, there's still that fear, worry that people would judge us and if we do share about our mental health struggles. So it's really on what it comes back to us, right? What can we say? How can we kind of respond to that person when they share about their mental health? Because that would play a big role in how people would be comfortable enough to share about their mental health struggles. And I hope I answered your questions, Miri.
Any more questions? If not, I have a request also. I think it would be good that you guide us through some website that you show us just now, how to use it, or what is the functions, what's the option that we have, such as can we have an appointment or a Zoom section with some counselors, things like that?
Okay, so
if we have no other questions.
Okay, maybe let me just answer Alicia's question first.
Yes, please. Yes.
Right. How do we refer someone to a helpline or a professional without making it sound like we're pushing them away, like we no longer want to listen to them? So I hear a bit of like perhaps like exhaustion from like giving this person too much support that you feel like you're a bit overwhelmed on your end. How can you be referring them to a helpline? I believe this person who has been reaching out to you has that rapport with you. And what I mean by rapport is that relationship, that trusting relationship with you enough to share so many things that are really personal to you. So how can you refer? It's really in a loving way. Try to not say, I don't want to give you support anymore. Can you please just talk to someone who can do this for you? Rather, you want to say that, I thank you for sharing with me about what you've gone through. It's been difficult, and I really appreciate that you've been telling me all of this thing. But I also want to let you know that it has been a bit overwhelming because I feel I can't help you too much, even though I've tried my best. But what you can do is you can, I have contacts that you can share, that you can contact, that have professionals to help you with this. And I'm willing to support you throughout as you go into this journey of seeking therapy, right? So not pushing them away, but letting them know that you have you've done what you can, but you also wish for them to get better help. Okay. All right. Celine talks about postpartum depression. It's not being talked a lot about. I talk about a lot, and if there is a stigma to it. Yeah, this is, I think it's coming up, it's popping up a lot, that people are starting to think about it a bit more after giving birth, having that period of depression. whether it's normal or really they're going through a lot. I think, motherhood is really an anxious period, right? You're giving birth to a human being, and suddenly you're in charge of taking care of this child and making sure that you're providing everything you can. And there are so many expectations on a mother. It's just really a job that requires a lot of commitment, and it can cause someone to be really worried or just feel low, don't feel adequate, don't feel good enough to be a mother. And yeah, I think this is where we see that postpartum depression is something that has been happening, but it is still not being talked about. So yes, there is stigma to it. I believe yes. I believe generally just mental health itself, there is still a lot of stigma to it. So your postpartum depression is not any different. Yeah. Okay. So now going to like the hotlines, right? So let me just share website. Okay. Maybe I'll share with you the major one, which is Befrienders. And then another one that I'm more comfortable with, which is where I'm working with folks' health. They know how the website works. Okay. Befrienders. All right. So let me just share screen again. So this is the website for Befrienders. There are a suicide hotline that you can call. It is 24 hours, so meaning anytime you call in the day, whether it's 3 in the morning or 3 in the afternoon, they have people who will be there to answer your call and to give you that support, that listening ear. And there are people who are trained to answer these calls. So if you have friends who you are worried, we all humans, and we also have friends who wants us to support them 24/7, but we also want to get our rest and our sleep, right? If you're worried for this friend, especially doing impulsive things, because suicide is a very impulsive action. It's where the person at that point of time feeling so helpless, feeling like there is really no way out of what they're experiencing, wanting to get out of it, but they can't. It just feel like it's stuck, right? And it's a really impulsive thing, because if you give it a bit more time, if you can even distract the person a bit, research found that the suicidal intention would actually just lower down. So what this call does is it keeps the person talking, keeps the person a bit more calm, and then it really just reduces that suicide impulsiveness. Yeah. So this is the website that you can go onto. It's called Befrienders. Let me just copy it over so you guys can also click in. And then I'll share with you the company that I'm working with. So we're actually an NGO, but we are going into private. We are going through this like transition phase. Basically, we provide services. So we provide mental health screening. If say you're going through a lot of mood changes and you're feeling a bit confused, you want to know what's going on with you. These are the services that we provide to kind of screen everything and see what you've been going through and help you out with that. We have early child intervention as well. So children with behavioral disabilities, like autism, very commonly. So this is also one of the services that we provide. Individual therapy. So it used to be purely face-to-face, meaning you have to come all the way to our office for us to provide you that service. But now, ever since MCO, actually not just Souls Health, but a lot of centers, mental health centers in KL, that's opened up the option of online therapy. So now we're actually getting not just KL clients, we're getting clients from all over the West Malaysia mainly. And it's all online. You'll be sitting in a room that you're comfortable with, and talking to a professional to help you with understanding your problems better, managing your struggles better. We also have family therapy, couples therapy, career counseling. So these are all the things I think you can check it out yourself really easily if you want to. Just, book an appointment, whether it's adult or children. But children, so far, we have no online therapy session. Adults, we have. So I think this is more relevant for you guys if you're going for online therapy. And if you are more comfortable with VM, we also have the VM version. So yeah, I think these are the two websites that I'm a bit more familiar with. Yeah, I hope that was helpful. Oh, let me just share this as well so you guys can check it out.
Vera, for this, is it free of charge or you have to pay for the services?
Oh, okay, yeah, really good question. So for Soul's Health, we have subsidized rate, meaning if your income is lower than, I believe, 1,003, then they put you under subsidized rate, meaning instead of paying 100 per session, you just need to pay 50 per session. And while we're here, we actually have this project going on. It's called Jom Sembang. It's a project that was funded by the government to give therapy in a cheaper level, a lot cheaper price for people who are having financial struggles during this COVID situation. And if you have, household income of less than 4,000 and below, or if you're single and you have an income of 2,000 and below, you are, you can meet this requirement and you get 5 sessions for 50 ringgit. So that is a really affordable price. Yeah, but we're closing this project soon. So if you want it, I would say, go ahead and book an appointment.
I'm also curious about the financial situation of this this organization. How was it? Strong, or they need a lot of support in terms of financial support?
You're asking like how
the organizations work. Yeah. The financial.
So for our organization, how are we supporting ourselves, is it?
Yeah.
So we are applying a lot of grants. We are asking for financial aid grants from the government, from a lot of research projects, and this is one of it that we got recently. It's one of the biggest projects that we're handling this year. And we are, a lot of people have reached out to us for this 5 sessions for 50 ringgit is really, really affordable. So we've been getting a good response, but we'll be closing it soon. They actually extended it, so it's not just to the 31st March. They extended it to I think 1 more week or 2 more weeks. Yeah. So, and even if this project ends and expires, we have something called commitment fee. So this fee is if you commit to 5 sessions and you show your pay slip and you really are struggling with financial difficulties, they actually give you that package of 5 sessions for 50 ringgit, even outside of this project. Yeah.
I see.
Okay.
Any question for you from your side? From my side, I haven't received one yet.
Nope. I think that no question from the chat box.
If not, I have this thought about this stigma. As I studied from the theology side, we study about the culture of Asians and also Chinese and Asia culture with the honor and shame culture. Do you want to share more about this? Why this honor and shame culture will cause that stigma and misunderstanding, and also the law awareness about mental health? Share more a little bit about this. If you want.
So you're talking about the very Asian belief that if you not able to get a job or have a family, you're bringing shame to your family. If you are going to mental health struggle, it's going to bring a lot of shame to the family if people, the public knows about it, right? So I think it's a really good question. I think we see it a lot as well. Throughout Malaysia, there is this stigma if my child's having this mental health struggle, maybe maybe it's not that bad. Maybe she's just overthinking it, just being too dramatic. So I'm just gonna brush it off. So what can we do about it? Is really be aware that if these things are happening, we see that they are family members who are struggling with it. Know that above the family reputation is also this individual that you love going through this mental health struggle, and really needing that support from you instead of brushing it off and say, for the sake of the reputation of the family, we're not going to talk about this. Because that is very harmful more than helpful.
Yeah, thanks for the sharing related to the honor and shame. Yeah. For my friend's case, that is the case that when my friend's mom know it, that she felt shameful, felt why this happened to me. Yeah, that pierced my heart. Aunties have that misunderstanding about mental health. It's something bad, something cursed to this family, so that we have this kind of issue.
Because again, we go back to this mental health is something that everyone has, right? Just like physical health, just like medical health, everyone also has this
information.
It's also having this mental health, right? So if they're going through a rough patch, it really just goes back to the normalcy of it, right? When someone has a flu, when someone has a cough, when someone has like diarrhea or stomachache, we encourage them to see a doctor. Why is it not the same when it comes to mental health?
For myself, I have a question about this. If I suspect that I have this maybe a hypersomnia or insomnia or negative thoughts, how any resource could help me to identify this by not going to hospital or going to clinic to check on it. Any
or self-assessment kind of
something like that.
Self-test. They are really common one is what we call the DASS score. It measures your depression, your anxiety, and your stress. So that is something that you can do to like fill it up, and then you get but it's not a diagnostic tool, meaning it's not used to diagnose if you have a high score on depression, you have depression, or if you have a high score on stress, you're going through a lot. But rather it's the level of feeling depressed, the level of feeling anxious, the level of feeling very stressed. So I can share that. Maybe I'll share that with you later on, so you can share with other people. Okay, thanks for that.
I'm also thinking of when you shared just now that the workers or the psychiatric in Malaysia is less, that we should have more, 10 times more. What if one of our friends or relative that they are interested in these studies, what will suggest us to prepare for this, or the suggestion on these studies?
Okay, like career direction.
Pursue as their career. Because some parents might have this thought that, this is not going to make you rich. So don't go pursue this career. Maybe go to engineering.
I would share from my experience, and also speaking to a lot of other senior clinical psychologists out there. And there's this saying that if you want to be rich, clinical psychologist is not the road for you, because then you feel really disappointed. But if you're into helping people, and you know how important it is that mental health is, and you really want to help people who are struggling with this, and there are ways, right, that we are trained to provide this coping methods, skills for them to learn and get to see people share their journey with you, get to see them recovery, their recovery journey. If you're interested in going for that, then yes, go ahead. It would be a very fulfilling job for you. But also it takes an emotional toll. So I think clinical psychology counselor is not a job for everyone. You do need a certain level, like emotional stability to go into this course. Otherwise, you'll find it really, really overbearing because you'll be hearing a lot of stories shared with you that can be really stressful. And if you have, we always say, if you have your own personal trauma or personal things that happened to you in the past that you did not deal with, you have not talked about, it may come up during when you're providing the services to other people. So it's if say you're already in the course, then you realize that you're actually having this. It's also going to see a therapist yourself, just like doctors see doctors themselves when they're sick. It's the same thing for psychologists, therapists. Yeah,
that is helpful. We talk about calling and the burdens to help people if they want to step into this as their career. Yeah. Any more questions from the participants? Or any last things you want to share with us, Vera? If not, then you will close us with a prayer for today's section.
Yeah, I'll close then.
Okay.
All right. Let us pray. Father, we thank you for all of us here that you put to come and to know more about mental health. We know that in the current COVID situation, we are faced with so much uncertainties in our life, but we give you thanks that you remain our rock and our redeemer and our comfort during this time. And help us to also share this good news, this comfort with people around us who are going through the struggle. We pray for those of us who may have friends or family with mental health struggles. Lord, may you use people here who have a lot more awareness about mental health now to live out your love, to live out your care for these people who are struggling with mental health. We pray for those among us who are struggling with mental health. I pray that you continue to give those of us courage to bring our pain before you. That you also reveal to us people that we can share and confide our pain in, that could be praying and be guiding us through this difficult journey. Pray for all the church leaders, the pastors, to have wisdom in handling such matters that are given to them, that they know that you are in control and they know of this resources available out there to provide this help to people who may need it. We pray for all of us, our health here throughout this COVID, that you protect us and be with us. And we submit all of this into your most precious hand. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. For information, we will upload these sessions to YouTube so that you can share with friends, or if you join in late, then you can re-listen to this again as your study, or welcome to share with your friends who need this. For the next part 2 will be at May 2nd of May. So welcome to join us. So area of focus will be the common sign and symptom of the mental health struggles, and also towards self-help, simple ways to improve your mental health, and then others, ways to strike conversation with others on their mental health. And then lastly, Vera will share with us about the available resource for referral in Miri. So welcome to join with the part 2, 2nd of May. Okay, thanks for joining us.